Troubles in Northern Ireland took many lives, devastated families left behind, but for a small number of people, the experience of losing a loved one brought even more grief. The disappeared are a group of 17 people who were abducted, murdered and buried in unknown graves. To this day, the resting place of a number of these still remains unknown. An exhibition chronicling the details of the disappeared is on display in Drogheda this week until Friday, the first time the display has visited the Republic. It's a pleasure to welcome to studio Sean McGraw, brother of Brendan, who was taken in 1978, and on the telephone line Anna McShane, daughter of Charlie Armstrong, who disappeared in 1981. Good morning and welcome to you both. If I could start with you, Sean, just tell us the circumstances in relation to your brother Brendan in 1978.
Okay, Brendan was living in an apartment in Twinbrook in Belfast. He'd been married about a year. His wife was pregnant. They were expecting a baby in October. And in April, one Saturday morning, he went into town. He met his mother. She was buying him a radio. Because I'd got him a job on a ship from Belfast to Rotterdam on a weekly service, and he was due to take up that job the following day on the Sunday. While Brent was away from home, a group of 9 men came to the house and injected his wife, and when Brent came into the house they took him away. Told Marie not to inform the police. He would be okay, he would be back, not to worry. And Brendan's last word to her said, "I haven't done anything, don't be worrying, I'll be back." And that was the last time we seen him. And until 1999 we didn't know where he was. We thought he was just didn't come home or couldn't come home. In 1999 we were informed by the IRA that he had been killed, executed.
So, immediately after what happened in 1978, was there a big search out?
Well, at first, we were reluctant to go to the police in case we put Brendan in danger, but Marie, because she'd been ejected, we wanted to get her to the hospital, and we got a doctor, and eventually that night, Saturday evening, I went to the police. Now, whether the police did much work or not in those days, we don't know. My mother was on television, made an appeal. Marie, Brenton's wife, was on television, made an appeal as well. We went to various people and asked any trace of Brenton. We went to Clonard Monastery. We spoke to Father Reynolds there, and he eventually came back to us and told us that the IRA had no knowledge of him.
So they denied it?
Well, I think they used the words they had no knowledge about him. We never got anything to say, Brenton's dead, and there was rumours that he'd gone to Canada, and in those days, you were afraid to make too much of a fuss about anything because you could be putting yourself in danger as well.
The obvious question, Sean, is why would Brendan be taken in this way?
We really don't know. The reason they gave in 1999 was that he was an agent provocateur. And subsequently we have had discussions with the IRA. And on one occasion we were told that they thought he was responsible for somebody's death, but they subsequently found out that he wasn't.
They made a mistake?
Well, they never say they make mistakes.
So to talk to us about that dialogue with the IRA.
Well, we had a meeting with Jerry Adams through WAVE. And then
Who's WAVE?
WAVE is a trauma group in Belfast. They deal with victims, people who've been injured, families of the injured, and people like ourselves. They're great support. They were the ones that brought the families together and helped us communicate. So we had that meeting, and we really, I heard a lot of that, but a lot of it didn't make any sense to me. But basically they said that they hadn't been responsible for the death they thought he was responsible for.
But how did you subsequently, how did he become one of the disappeared insofar as the references to Meath, is it?
Yeah, well, when the list was given in 1999, Father Reid came to talk to us in my brother's house in Belfast, and he gave us the information and told us that he was buried in Orristown, which came as a big shock to us. That's up near Kells in County Meath. I mean, we imagined that he'd been buried in Belfast or Northern Ireland. And, I'd driven past that place on many occasions, so it was a complete shock to find that he was about 40 miles away from where I live presently. We went there one Sunday evening, met the Garda superintendent, and he showed us the spot that had been indicated. They searched. I mean, at first they really dug an area just the size of a grave, basically, and a week passed, 6 weeks, nothing. There's been various digs since then, but nothing has been found.
Okay, well, we'll come back to the process of trying to resolve the matters and the commission for the disappeared and what can and should be done going forward. But it's also a pleasure to welcome to the programme Anna McShane, daughter of Charlie Armstrong. Excuse me. Good morning, Anna.
Good morning.
Can you please tell us the story of your dad?
Well, my father went missing on his way to take an elderly lady to Mass one Sunday morning, and he wasn't found until 29 years later, which he ended up eventually getting to Mass. He went out to help, as he usually would do. He wasn't a taxi man as such, but he just was a man that had a car. And at the time he left the house, we presumed that that's where he was going. That's where he left the house to do. He never got there. I got a phone call about 1 o'clock from the lady in question, and she wanted to know could he do another run. She thought he'd broken down. That's the first we knew he'd missed. We went, searched everywhere, went down round, thought he broke down, checked the hospitals, saw the hospitals round. No, there was no word of anyone being admitted into hospital. And then I went to the police and the army, and they said no, they hadn't got him either. So our only avenue then was that IRA had him. With the possibility at the time they were lifting a lot of people with cars and using their cars, holding them for a few days, and then letting them out. While they used the car for whatever the purpose they wanted, after a couple of days there was still no sign of him, no car given back. His car was turned up in Dundalk, not too far from us. But whoever had driven the car knew him well, but didn't know him well enough. In the spot that my father's car was found was the opposite of where he would normally park. It was parked under trees. My father was so very, very proud of his car. He always warned us, never park under them trees. There's birds and they'll destroy your car. So he never would have parked there. The car doors were open. His coat was in the back seat of the car. And his licence and my brother's licence were gone from the car. The rumour started straight away. Oh, he was away, ran away with a circus. He was seen with 2 women in a bar stool in Carrick. He was seen getting off a bus in Drogheda. All different stories. But we knew that wasn't him. He was a family man. He never left home. He was always a man that if he said, I'll be back in 5 minutes, you could set your clock by him. He was back in 5 minutes.
That happened in 1981.
That happened in 1981.
And over the years then, you just had no explanation?
Nothing.
And what happened?
You could go nowhere to look for any word. We went away, we piled into cars at the weekends, and we went away every weekend, and we searched thinking that maybe he lost his memory or there was something like that had happened, because we knew he was an innocent man and he wasn't involved in anything. And we still were under the impression maybe he lost his memory and he was wandering around somewhere.
What happened in 2010?
In 2010, we received a letter for the first. In 1996 was the first hope we got. We met other families that had disappeared, and that was organised by Wave in Belfast. They arranged for the families to meet every so often. We couldn't meet in our own areas because, for our own safety, we couldn't even talk to our neighbours. They didn't want to talk to you about it. It was hush, hush, push it under the carpet, don't talk about that. So we had to get on and live our lives as if we were normal, happy families, even though we had this grieving process that was going through us that we didn't know what was happening. So through meeting other families gave us comfort. And In 2000, we received a letter telling us out of the blue, just addressed to the family on the Cullerville Road. And we knew it had been someone that knew us because my mother had recently moved to that address. And it just said, "I'm sorry now. Why now? I don't know." It was someone that was troubled, that was trying to clear their conscience. And they said, they put a map into it and said, "Charlie is buried here," and an X on it. And they said they didn't know until later. More or less, whoever it was didn't know who they were burying or who was put in the grave until afterwards. So we went to the police and the Garda, and at the time we were sort of laughed off, saying, "Oh, it's anonymous, we don't deal with things like that." So we had a hard battle to even get anyone to come and help us out, to help find this spot, where it was, how do we go about digging it, how do we find out who owns the property. Turned out there was 9 people own that one area. And we had to get permission of all of them. And to get the help we needed, we ended up going to America. And it was the support in America that got us where we are today. We'd been to the Dáil, we'd been to Westminster, fighting our case everywhere we could go. A long, ongoing struggle. And it took America to help us out. Mitchell Reese in America told us we were going the wrong way about it. He said we were starting from the bottom up, looking for these people to help us. He said in America they start from the top down. And within 6 weeks of being in America, we had invitations and meetings all over the country with people trying to help us. We managed to get the proper equipment and the proper specialists that we needed to do these digs and the help we needed. The dig, of course, turned out wrong. It wasn't the right spot. But later on, we got 2 more maps and 2 more letters. And they come through the confidential line. And we eventually found him. And having found him, it was great. But the 7 weeks that we waited after that was hell. It was even worse. It was wondering, was it him? Was it not him? Maybe it was someone else. Maybe it was some of the rest that disappeared. Guilt that if it is him, the rest are suffering, they haven't got them. Then going through the whole process of identifying his belongings that was found with him. Making the decision that no, we didn't want to follow it any further. We were so grateful to get the help we got, that all his belongings was buried with him. So there would no comeback on whoever gave the information. It was a 7-week wait, and the people come out of the woodwork. People that knew and agreed with us but could never acknowledge it. And the whole community got together, and it was unbelievable the support we got. And even his funeral closed down the whole area. Everywhere shut down completely, but we hadn't expected. And we had the funeral to do him proud. The bishop even said it took him 29 years from he left the house to get to Mass, but he had finally arrived that day. That was wonderful.
Anna, did anyone admit responsibility?
No. His name wasn't even on the list that came out at the Good Friday Agreement. He wasn't on it at all. Never was mentioned. And when I approached the IRA and I approached Jerry Adams, he said no, they had no knowledge of it. That there was nothing, no direct order come from head office to have him executed in any way.
Anna, you've had closure of some description. You were able to give a proper burial to Charlie Armstrong, your father. Yeah. Sean, you haven't yet found Brendan.
No, and my mother died in 2002. She had been more or less leading the campaign and searching for him. And at the bottom of her headstone we have Brendan disappeared 1978. But we want to get his body with his mother and father. We're appealing for information. We've had some help from people who may have been involved, but there's still more information out there, both for Brendan and Kevin McKee and Seamus Wright, who are buried probably about 5 miles from where Brendan is supposed to be buried.
Is the work of the Commission on the Disappeared still ongoing?
It's still ongoing. They still have their website, they still have their telephone number, and they respond to bits of information. They can only work if they get information. They're not an investigative body. They're depending on people coming to them with information.
Yeah, well, let's just listen to Information is the Key to Finding Those Who Remain Secretly Buried, as outlined by Jeff Knupler, head of the investigation for the Commission for the Disappeared.
I can't stress this strongly enough. We are entirely information-led. If we receive information, we can validate it, analyse it, and act upon it. If we don't receive information, we're absolutely powerless. We can't do anything.
What would you like the leadership of the Republican movement, Gerry Adams, to do?
Well, we've spoken to him and to some other senior members of Sinn Féin at various committees. We've been at the Good Friday Committee in the Dáil and another committee, and on those occasions we asked them directly to intervene in the local area there, to encourage people who were activists at the time to come forward, and for local people who may have some small piece of information or maybe something they heard from those involved.
This is where in County Meath?
This is at Orristown and Wilkinstown. It's between Navan and Kells.
Anna, I'd like to leave the final word with you. Do you have any message to Gerry Adams, the Republican movement, or what would you like to see the authorities do now?
I think the IRA have to put an end to this grieving purpose. Most of these, or the majority of these people, were innocent people. And it's their families. It's not just those you're punishing. It's their families. It's so hard to suffer through this. It's the unknown. It's the wishing, and you're being built up on them, and you think, right, I've got a map, I'm going to find them now, this is it. And then to be slapped down again. Please, please do as much as you can. Do anything you can, no matter how small of a piece of a jigsaw. Jeff Knupler and his team need that. The slightest wee bit could be what they need just to get to the rest of the jigsaw. Please, if you have any heart in you at all, please help the rest of the families.
OK, well, I want to thank Anna McShane, who is the daughter of Charlie Armstrong, and Sean McGraw, the brother of Brenda McGraw. The exhibition of The Disappeared is on display in the Barbican in William Street in Drogheda until this Friday, the 21st of February. And we'd like to thank the Wave Trauma Centre, who have done such work for these families. Sean and Anna, thank you both for joining us on Newstalk Breakfast.